Welcome once again to Just Don't Lose the Money, our podcast with Sam Lang of Rubino & Lang Wealth Partners. What we do each and every week is sit down here and talk about some of the things that people are coming in and really concerned about, worried about when they get toward retirement and start their retirement planning. And Sam Lang is here. How are you doing today, Sam?
Doing fantastic. And just to your point, when people come in and I say, hey, what are you in for? What do you want to talk about? Mm-hmm. They say and they repeat exactly what you just said. Just don't lose the money, especially today, So yeah, we have a great show. We'd like to talk about really all the things that matter around retirement, and of course making sure that you keep what you have is one of those important items.
And we call the podcast Just Don't Lose the Money. You've got your history of being on the radio for 30 years using that term. And when we talk about that, I mean, we're going through periods of time right now of volatility, and people get a little itchy when they start losing money in the market, and that's when they might come to see you.
I mean, listen, we all want to make a great rate of return. We want our portfolios to double as quickly as possible, but as you get closer to that retirement age or in retirement, and Warren Buffett said it best, right? 2 rules. We follow rule number 1, just don't lose the money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1.
There you go.
And as corny, as goofy as that sounds, I think that's a really good sort of DNA type of thinking to think about and to make sure that you go into retirement. And listen, we all want to make money, but importantly, and sometimes more importantly, is not to lose money. So hopefully we can help some folks out there today. And if you'd like to reach out to us, our website's very simple, justdon'tlosethemoney.com.
Well, one of the big mysteries about retirement, and one of the reasons we all get nervous about it, is we're walking away from a paycheck. All our lives, we've been paid by an employer, and it comes in every 2 weeks, and we build our life on that, and you walk away from that, and now it's all up to you. This whole idea of developing a paycheck, developing income, it's a little bit of a mystery to a lot of us.
I think it's important to keep that in mind, creating a paycheck when you go into retirement. There's a lot of TV commercials and ads that talk about building the number larger and larger, and how quickly can we get that $1 million or $2 million. And of course, that is super important. But I think one of the most important things is, to your point, hey, if I'm getting a paycheck every 2 weeks for $5,000 and I'm pulling in 10 grand a month, well, during those working years, it's kind of easy to budget, right? You know what's coming in 2 weeks. And hopefully you can spend less than that and save a few bucks. But when that $10,000 a month goes to, $4,000 a month because you lost your paycheck and now you have Social Security maybe you still need another $4,000 or $5,000. So we need to make sure that it's important to sort of visualize, take a portion of your savings to create your own paycheck. Does that make some sense?
Absolutely. Now you at Rubino & Lang have something called the PIN, the Portfolio Income Need. And this is a number that you calculate. And when someone comes in, it's kind of like what you just said. If you're getting $5,000 a paycheck, $10,000 a month, is that the number that I need in retirement? Is it more? Is it less? Got to figure that out.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we ask people, hey, what's your monthly burn rate? Like, what do you spend? They look at you like you're talking to them in a foreign language, right? So how do we calculate that? I mean, from an elementary standpoint, it should be pretty easy, but a lot of times we don't know how to calculate that. So we've created this website. Again, if you go to justdon'tlosethemoney.com, it will walk you through an exercise. It might take you all of 2 minutes to figure out, roughly what it is that you might be short on each month. And it'll take you through what you spend, and it'll help you remember some of the expenses that you might not account for. And then all of your income sources that might be coming in. Maybe you have rental income, maybe you have a pension, you're lucky enough to have that. But most cases there's a shortfall. And we want to know what that shortfall is before we do any planning for clients.
Just that process, Sam, I've gone through it, and you tend to forget some of the things that you pay for, Netflix and Hulu and all that kind of stuff. And then you think about car insurance. Maybe you pay that once a quarter or once every year, and you forget about that. All the subscriptions, the memberships, all these different things, and the bug man. And there's just so much there that you pay for every year that you just blindly write checks for and you don't even think about.
And the things that we take for granted for. You go to your office, maybe the coffee that you drink every single day, 3 times a day is for free.
There you go.
Well, now you go home, guess what? Who's paying for that coffee? You are. So, it's important to have a good idea of what your burn rate is, and having the ability to figure that out through our website to figure out what your portfolio income needs is Very important.
You can check that out at justdon'tlosethemoney.com, where you can find our website there. There's a button that says Start Here. And when you click on that, we'll ask you to put in a little information. Then it says Schedule a Call. And that's an informational call where we kind of get to know you and figure out exactly what you're looking for. Sam, I've came across an article here that really got my attention, and it says, turn your portfolio into a juicy retirement paycheck.
Oh, like a Big Mac. Sounds pretty good.
I like that. It gave you 4 different things to do. It says, first of all, you got to have a withdrawal strategy, and it's okay to get into your principal. Number 2, put some cash in a money market fund for safety. Convert your 401k to an annuity, or use bonds or additional income and stocks for growth. 4 pretty good ideas. Do you like the list? Do you add to the list? What do you say?
I think it's important to think about that as the sort of the ground zero for your list, right? Every person's different. Some people might have enough income. They might have a pension. They might have Social Security. I have some clients that don't have any kids, and they just need money for themselves. And they can't spend it in their lifetime. So, those are the lucky ones that don't really have to worry about an income strategy. I'd say 90% of us, including myself, probably you as well, well, when we stop working, guess what? We need to make sure that the savings that we have is going to support us for the next 20, 25, 30 years. So the point that you just have a withdrawal strategy, a game plan, is really important. And, there's some rules of thumb that Wall Street has created, like the 4% withdrawal rule, which for the most part has worked in the last, 3 or 4 decades. But as we're entering to some, I'll put it this way, weird times, I think it's important to recognize that 4% withdrawal strategy may or may not work. So just as an example, if you got $1 million and you pull out $40,000, that's 4%. You say, hey, you know what, my portfolio's been growing at 6 or 7 or 8, no problem. I'll be able to take out my 40 grand, plus my portfolio will still continue to grow. Well, if you're doing that today, and we have a pullback of, let's say, 20, 30%, which nobody wants to talk about, but that's the elephant in the room. It could happen. So now your $1 million it's not even going this way, it's going the other way, right?
Right.
So now you got $1 million, you pull out 40 grand, now you got 960. It loses 20 or 30%. Next thing you know, you have 700 at the end of the year. Well, pulling out 40,000 is not 4% anymore.
Right.
It's more almost like 6%. So we need to make certain that you don't just, fly it by the seat of your pants, and hopefully that your portfolio will still continue to grow. That way you can take out the 4%. You have to have a withdrawal, an income plan, an income strategy. And depending on your particular situation, it could be a variety of things.
So I think that as I listen to that scenario is, I think what the 4% rule is kind of built on is if the market's going down, you take a little less money. And that's no good because I've got my expenses. I got to pay my bills. So I kind of like the idea of taking what I have and building it into an income stream that's outside of that up and down of the market.
I have a very good friend of mine who's a client. We met each other 25 years ago coaching Little League Baseball. And he's been a client of mine for, a dozen or so years. And he always reminds me every single time we have a review, hey, I don't want to touch principal. And I have to remind him, that's okay, but where did that come from? Oh, that's what my dad taught me. Well, in today's world, it's a little bit different. It's not your grandfather's retirement anymore. And, unless you have 5 kids, they're all hurting, you really want to make sure you help them and leave them a ton of money when you pass, touching some of your principal is not a bad thing, right? It's not a dirty word. Really, I think for most people, at least this is the way my wife and I feel like we've done a good job helping our children and raising them, paying for their college. They have no debt. And, just time for them to sort of fend for themselves. It's not to say in retirement, we're going to spend recklessly, but we want to do things, do all the things that we've dreamed of and that we envisioned of what retirement is going to look like. And let's protect whatever's left over for our children. But if we start with this much and we pass with this much and they get that as an inheritance, it's not a terrible thing. So spending principal in some years, especially if you're in the market, especially if you have, a specific drawdown rate that you need to pay the bills and the essential expenses, and the market goes down a little bit, so now you've eaten into principal a little bit, that's probably okay. You just don't want to do that too many times. That's why having an income withdrawal strategy is important.
This idea of having money in a money market fund, and I know that that's a big discussion when people walk in the door. We talk about risk tolerance. How much do you want to be in the market? How much do you want to be out of the market? It seems like it's a either or kind of thing. I either have my money at risk and it can grow or it can go backwards, or I put it in this money market that just doesn't give me very much, and it's so conservative, I'm worried about growth.
You know, we are big believers in the sort of the bucket strategy. Mm-hmm. First bucket is liquidity. It could be a high yield savings account. It could be a money market. And it's not there to earn a ton of interest, but it's there in case you need it. And especially today when you might have the growth bucket going down, you don't want to touch that and you don't want to sell things off on the way down, right? Okay. We all know that. So having your liquidity bucket, your emergency bucket, whether it's in a money market, and today money markets are, 3.5%. They're not terrible. Certainly a lot better than they were 5-10 years ago. High yield savings account, you can probably get a CD as high yield 100% liquid savings account, probably closer to 4. So sort of the rule of thumb, at least the way we think, is if you have at least a minimum of 1 year's expenses in that money market fund, mm-hmm. and the rest of your money could be in the market. You could have a great guy or gal at Fidelity helping you. But no matter what they do in trying times, when the market is very volatile, and we'll use that R word, recession, it's probably going to go down. You don't want to touch it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have enough money in that, I can get my hands on a today bucket, we don't have to really worry about selling things as they're going down. So beefing up your emergency fund with plenty of money in a money market or high yield savings account is probably a pretty good idea today.
I watched a video of a professor at Wharton Business School, and she said that they did a survey and 3 things came up over and over of what people regretted in retirement. What could you have done better if you could go back and fix? And the first one they said is, I would have taken Social Security just a little bit later. Another one that they talked about was, I regret that I didn't build myself some guaranteed income. And that word out there, and she mentioned annuity, that is one way to get there. What is it about people who are in retirement that like that paycheck and they like the idea of the annuity, but the people that come in who are planning for retirement, they're skeptical of that? Mm-hmm. What is the difficulty there?
I mean, I think as the way you got to look at it, an annuity is not an investment. Mm-hmm. An annuity is a way for you to design to create your own pension, essentially. Mm-hmm. An annuity can be looked at, maybe I want to park some of my money. That's the principle's protected. It's not going to go down. I can earn a reasonable rate of return. But when somebody says, hey, you know what? I want to invest in an annuity. That's kind of like, it's like mixing oil and water. It doesn't go together.
Right.
So sometimes of the negative connotation, the negative feelings around annuities is, it's not a great investment. Mm-hmm. No, duh, it's not supposed to be.
Okay.
Right. So we have some clients that come to us that are just super comfortable mm-hmm. because they retired maybe as a teacher, or they retired as a police officer and they have a pension. I have a good friend of mine who's retiring from the state. He worked for the Department of Revenue. He's going to have a nice pension, 80% of what he used to make. Mm-hmm. And his bills are paid off. There's no debt. He's going to be fine. Between that and his Social Security, he's probably going to be making about the same. So whether his account is this much or this much, whether it earned 10% or lost 20%, he knows he's going to be able to enjoy his retirement lifestyle each and every month by having a pension.
That whole idea of having a pension, I mean, that money coming in, that's what we want to replace. It's the paycheck that comes in. Social Security comes in once a month. You got paid twice a month when you were in your working years. I need to replace that whole concept. And I think that we talk about somebody who has $1 million in savings and no pension, or someone who has $100,000 in savings but gets $5,000 a month in pension. Which one would you like to be? I kind of like that guaranteed pension. I like that $5,000 a month.
Listen, everybody's different. Thank goodness, right? Otherwise, we'd be wearing all the same clothes, eating all the same foods, but everybody has their own taste. So some people are perfectly comfortable, hands off. I want to set it and forget it. I don't want to, watch the Wall Street Journal and go online and check my accounts all the time. I just want that steady paycheck. That leads to a conversation of some of your options. And of course, one of the options is creating a pension using an annuity product. Some of our other clients are perfectly okay with taking on risk. Mm-hmm. They like the chase, right? They like going to the casino, but they love seeing those high gains, and maybe they don't need an income. Maybe they have enough money. So maybe having a conversation about creating an income is not the right place and the right time. So every person is different, but I will say this, for anybody that we have a discussion with, and they say, yeah, well, I'm worried about running out of money. I'm worried about having enough. Where am I going to, I got, 4 different accounts. Like, where am I going to draw from? How am I going to get a monthly paycheck that's consistent and reliable? That conversation, as we look at solutions, one of the solutions is taking a portion of your money, and in most cases, your qualified accounts, your IRAs, your 401ks, because, if you saved $1 million in your 401k, you're not going to spend it in one day.
Right.
Right? How are you going to use it? You're going to use it a little bit at a time as you need it. So we take a look at taking a portion of your money, and that's not going to be all of your money, but a portion of your money to say, hey, look, your income gap every month is $4,000. So you got, $1.4 million between your brokerage account and your 401k. Well, we did some numbers, and if you took $820,000 of that 1.4 and you created an income stream that's going to give you $4,000 a month for the rest of your life, guaranteed. Now you take that other $600,000 or so, and you can do whatever you want with it, invest it. If it goes down, you're going to be just okay. So, following that, again, the Warren Buffett rule that we use, our guiding principles of following those 2 rules. Rule number 1, just don't lose the money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. That has a lot to do with making sure that you have a sound retirement plan that no matter if the markets are doing fantastic or we're in some trying times, that you're going to be able to live your retirement without any hiccups.
Well, it all kind of starts with going to our website, which is justdon'tlosethemoney.com, and figuring out your PIN, your portfolio income needs. Sam, just walk us through that as we kind of bring this to a close today.
Yeah, so if you go onto that website, one of the first things it's going to ask you is what your expenses are. And if I say to you, what are your expenses, Randy? You might say, well, I think it's like $5,000. Well, guess what? If you do this exercise, we're going to help you, prompt you to think a little bit deeper. And you're going to come up with probably not $5,000, but more like $6,500 a month. Because there are things that we spend money on that until you put pen to paper, you're going to forget that you spent that money on a monthly basis. So once we know that number, then the easier portion is, well, what are some of your guaranteed income sources? Well, right now, if I'm working, I know what my paycheck's going to be. But when I stop working, maybe you have your Social Security estimates all figured out. You're going to take it at 68, and it's going to be, $4,000 a month. Maybe you have some, dividends coming in from some stocks, the Baby Bells and the Verizons and what have you, that's going to pay you a dividend each and every month. And you're never going to sell those stocks, so you know what that income is. Maybe you have rental income. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a pension. We total all that number. And for most people, the expenses are greater than what's coming in every month. So the difference is your income gap, which is what we call the portfolio income needs. How much of the portfolio do we need to set aside, earmarked for income? And once you know that, then you can build a retirement plan around that number. You know how much risk you need to take. You know how much money you need to set aside for the income strategy. You know how much money you can set aside to take on risks for growth. That's really a good place to start. And for most people, they don't have either a clear picture, or in some cases, they don't have a handle on it at all. So it's a great place to start.
It's what I call doing the math on your retirement. If you knew what Sam just described about your retirement, wouldn't you feel a little better, a little more confident about going into retirement, knowing that those gaps are filled? You can go to our website, which is justdon'tlosethemoney.com. Look for the PIN, your portfolio income need. You can start that exercise right there. In the upper right-hand corner, it says Start Here. If you click on that, you'll see something that says Fill in some information, and then you can schedule your call right there, the informational call, the discovery call. And Sam, just kind of go through that. When someone calls, what happens during that call?
Yeah, a lot of times people say, hey, where do I start, right? We're not going to have a phone call with you and tell you this is exactly what you should do, Randy. But that's a discovery call. It's really just a 10-minute, 15-minute phone call for us to figure out, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Sam, is your company the right fit, right? So we want to make sure that our expertise matches up with that particular person's needs. And that discovery call is a way for us to get to know each other a little bit, for us to sort of kick each other's tires. And if it leads to, yeah, you know what? I think there's something there. I like your style, what I need, I think you can help me with. We'll schedule a complimentary consultation that might last an hour. That's on our nickel. We can do that in person. Our office is in Massachusetts, Greater Boston, Mass, or Zoom meetings these days. We all know how to do virtual meetings, so it's great. But it's really an opportunity for us to take a much deeper dive. And then from there, we can take all that information and give it to you in an analysis, what we call the 365 retirement plan, where we basically spell out, these are your concerns, these are the recommendations, and this is how you go about fixing it, and this is the outcome. And I think one of the things that, and forgive me if I'm being a little long-winded, but a lot of people have a big doubt about how much money they've saved, and is it going to be enough to last their lifetime? Mm-hmm. Right now, if we knew what our lifetime was going to be, our jobs would be a lot easier. If we knew we were all going to, go up to heaven on our 85th birthday, that would be a lot easier. But we don't. So we run different scenarios. Well, what if you live, to 90? What if you live to 95? What's your probability of success? And that's one of the big components that we're able to help you check off.
Information is king, and knowing this kind of information is really going to, I believe, help you as you make that step into your retirement years. Again, give us a look on our website, justdon'tlosethemoney.com. You can take the test there. It'll take just a couple of minutes to figure out your PIN. Start that exercise right there, and then schedule a call with the team at Rubino and Lang Wealth Partners and get your questions answered. Figure out if we're a good fit, and let's get going on your retirement journey. We thank you so much for watching, and we hope you'll join us next time here on Just Don't Lose the Money.
Ryan Marston and John Conley are investment advisor representatives of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Investment financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Sam Lang is licensed in your state, please call 617-630-8787. Rubino and Lang Wealth Partners is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Rubino and Lang Insurance Agency, LLC, Massachusetts Insurance License number 1783398.